Hello friends, welcome to the Friday live stream. We're gonna get started in just about 3 minutes. So in this little countdown time, I'd love for you to hop into the chat today. Let me know where you're watching from. We got 1 week till Easter weekend. Are you fretting? How you feeling? I don't even have Good Friday planned yet. Well, I mean, I kind of do. I gotta lock down some stuff. Yeah, let me know where you're watching from, if you can hear this okay, if everything's looking good, and I'm just gonna double check it on the phone here and make sure we're rolling. Hey, Larry. Nice. There we go. Down in the bayou. What does that emoji mean? I don't understand it. That's cool. Let's see who else we got. Thanks for hopping on. Tobias, come on, man. You never miss, it seems like. What time is it in Germany? Good morning from Nashville. Hey, Robert. Shout out to my church, NCF. All right, Isaac, come on. What's NCF stand for? Let's try to guess. Nations Christ Fellowship. Tobias said sounds good. All right, good deal. Good deal, Benji, thanks. What's up, Simon? All the way from across the pond. I'm sorry if that's offensive. I'm sorry. Isaac from Ohio, my son's favorite meme. Oh, it's only 4 p.m. Okay, you're good. We got some friends visiting from Germany, missionaries there. Last couple weeks they've been here in Oklahoma. It's been fun getting to see them again. All right, 40 seconds. I don't get offended. All right, good. You guys are in for a treat. We got Johnny from Worship Sound Guy that's gonna be joining us in just a minute, and we're reviewing your live streams. And we've already got 3 picked out from those 25 that submitted. Still time to submit your live stream if you want to. And we are doing a little extra thing there that I'll tell you about. It's in the video description as well. But yeah, it's gonna be a great day. And hello from Ghana. Awesome, man. It's great to have you guys joining us on the live stream. So let's get this thing fired up. Come on. Here we go. Well, welcome back to another Friday live stream where we review your church's live streams. It's kind of like an iron sharpens iron type thing where me, Ryland Russell, if you're just stumbling upon the YouTube channel somehow, I review your live streams. And now this year we've been adding some experts in the mix to help give us some feedback as we just do our best to do great things for God's glory. That's what it's all about. So we've got Johnny from Worship Sound Guy that's going to be joining us in just a moment. Many of you have already submitted your live streams, and if you're watching this later on, look for the timestamps below and you can jump around the live stream. We're going to do a few here with Johnny and have some fun with him talking all things audio. So if you have a question, drop it in the chat today, dealing with live stream audio, front of house audio, whatever that may be. And we'll see if we can, help each other out. We're all just trying to learn. It's cool, so cool to get to talk to all you guys in the chat who are doing the same thing I'm doing. I'm just a worship and media arts pastor trying to do my best week in and week out, make it a little better every week. And you're just in your location that God has placed you in doing the same thing. So as we get started here, it's so cool to see in the chat, who all is joining us from all over the world. And we're all just part of God's kingdom and trying to make much of Jesus. So thanks again for hopping on the live stream today. Remember, submit those live stream audio questions or front of house audio questions, and we'll see if we can't get you answered. But right now, I want to go ahead and bring in my guest today, Johnny from Worship Sound Guy. All right, everybody give it up this morning. Yeah, come on. Well, it's so great to have you on the live stream today, man. So why don't you just tell everybody a little bit about yourself, where you're from, and who is the worship sound guy?
Yeah, so I'm Johnny Reagan, aka Worship Sound Guy. It's a project that I started, about 8 years ago now, in the auditorium of my home church, and started a Twitter account, and kind of moved on to creating courses and some other online content to help church audio engineers get better at what they do.
That's cool, man. So are you on staff at a local church right now, or what is your Sunday gig?
Yep. Yeah, I'm on staff, been a tech director at a local church here in Alpharetta, Georgia, for 11 years now. So, yep, long time. Yeah.
That's cool, man. So tell us a little bit about your church. Like, what's the vibe of it?
Yeah. It's it's Stone Creek Church, and we're very much kind of just in that typical sort of non-denominational vibe. So kind of probably what a lot of you guys are a part of. And yeah, over the years we've obviously changed and grown a lot. We're averaging, I think, around like 2,500 people on a Sunday right now across 3 services. So it's really fun to be a part of.
Wow. Okay. So what's your front of house setup in the space you're working with?
Yeah. So actually, coming out of COVID, we did like a pretty substantial PA and front of house upgrade. So right now we're on the Digicode 225 for front of house, which has been amazing. That's the first Digicode console that I've run consistently, and it's just been like a real joy getting to use that. Previously, we were on actually the Waves LV1 system, which was awesome. Love it. We actually still use one for monitors, which is great. But man, having a real console with real faders, that's just kind of a game changer.
So with the LV1, you didn't have any motorized Behringer?
We did have the little the little fit controller, which it's fine, but yeah, it's still there was so much happening on screen that we found ourselves using the on-screen controls more than the fit controller.
Okay.
So,
is the fit controller motorized?
It is, yeah.
Okay. We did have a question that came in on Instagram yesterday, and one of the respondents asked, "What is your favorite Waves plugin?"
Ooh, wow! Oh, that's good. I would say right now it's probably the F6. Yeah, when that came out, I was just so excited. I was a big fan of the C4 and the C6 for multi-band dynamics control, and I feel like the F6 just kind of took that to even a better place. So yeah, that's been really fun. I use that, on so many channels. Honestly, even sometimes just using it as a normal EQ, but using the analyzer that's built into it, just to have another reference point for what's happening on the channel.
Awesome. That's cool, man. Pixel Pro says, don't forget to like the stream, guys. Yeah, so come on, fellas. If you think this is something that's going to be helpful for other church tech directors, hit that share button, hit the like button while we get this party started. So I think we should just go ahead and jump into these live stream reviews. We've got 3 on the docket here, and as we're reviewing these, Johnny's going to give his input. I'm not an audio expert, that's why you're here, but I'll throw in my 2 cents since, it's my live stream, I guess. And in the chat, you guys, if you hear stuff, feel free to comment. And while we're doing these, if you do have a question for Johnny, go ahead and post that in the chat, and I will try to keep track of those as we get going. But first up, let's go ahead and take a look at Fam TV. So let's talk about their setup for just a moment. They are running an X32 at front of house that's linked with AES to X32 rack in their broadcast. And then they're putting that all into Pro Tools where all the magic happens. So if you guys are there and you can shed a little light on what this magic is, let us know. They say that they've even made their own template that they've sold to other people and stuff. So let's see if this is purchase worthy, and we'll see how it sounds on our end. Okay, Fam TV, here we go.
Chains to break. I'm not waiting for the prison to open. I am free by the wonder of the cross Jesus did it. everything changed. Jesus did it. Hey, it is finished. Oh, Jesus did it. I'm not waiting for.
Have you ever heard this song before?
No, I haven't. I was gonna ask, like, yeah, what song is this?
I've never heard it. Like, I don't know. I know Tyler, their worship guy, writes a little bit, so I'm wondering if it's one of his. But if not, it's a great song.
Solid.
Tell us some of your opening thoughts. I did send these streams to Johnny, and he kind of had a chance to listen to them beforehand a little bit too. So what are you hearing?
Yeah, so first off, the band is crushing it. I think that's maybe like one of the most underrated aspects of having a really good live stream is like your band's got to be just killing it. And this band obviously, I mean, the energy there is like incredible. Just love that. So I think that's a big component of it too, is like translating the energy that's happening in the room onto the stream. And obviously you guys are doing a great job of that. So that was kind of my first impression of hearing this. I was like, man, this is just like, I feel the energy. I feel like the passion, the emotion coming through. And I think that's what we're trying to do with live stream, right? Is we're trying to like extend the experiences happening in the room to the people who are watching online. I think this does like a really, really good job of that.
Yeah, man, that's cool. Let's hone in on the drum sounds for a little bit, and I'll turn it back up and we'll listen for just another minute. I saw he's got the big fat snare drum on there. What do you think of the drums? Any thoughts?
I think they sound really good. I do want to know. I'm curious. Maybe you can drop it in the chat. If there's some magic happening, maybe like layering in some samples on that. I sort of suspect that there is, which is obviously totally fine. Like I use samples on our mix, like blended subtly. It jumped out a little bit to me, so I'm curious maybe like how much of a sample they're running. I prefer maybe a slightly more natural drum tone, but like they sound huge. Like that's awesome. Yeah, what did you think about them?
Yeah, I wonder the same thing if they're using like Steven Slate trigger or something in that Pro Tools session to trigger. But I thought they sound great. Some couple comments are saying they wish there was a little more bass, so let's listen a little more. I can maybe see that, a little touch of bass more, but
I can too. I think for me, bass is such a delicate balance on a live stream, because like you want to sound good on, you know, somebody's phone or, you know, like laptop speakers or whatever that are not going to put out a bunch of bass anyway. So like for us, like listening on headphones, or like I was listening on like studio monitors earlier, and it's like, yeah, like maybe there could be a little more bass for like for that playback source, but for most people, I'm like, yeah, I'm probably not going to notice it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think like, yeah, there could be a little, you know, maybe a little bump on there at the end.
Let's listen to the stereo image of this one too and see if there's any thoughts there. Very cool, very cool.
Yeah.
I've reviewed Fam TVs a couple times, and they always do a great job. Hey, we got Collaborate Worship in the house.
Oh, what's up, Cade?
Yeah, so thanks for hopping on, Cade and Dylan, whichever one of the brothers are there today. And then Simon says that we need to listen to James Attaway because it's all about the bass, he says.
I mean, it is all about the bass. It's true.
Let's talk about bass, because that is something that we struggle with here at our church. We have bass players that come in with different rigs. Even this last week, you know, we have flown subs, and so sometimes like we're battling that thing of like wanting more sustained. What tricks do you have for getting good bass tone? Are you adding certain kinds of compressors? What are you doing?
Yeah, so I generally do rely a lot on what the bassist is giving me. So hopefully they've got a good rig that, like, you know, sounds great. They've got their, you know, compression and, you know, any like drive settings kind of worked out where it's like sending me something that's like really good. Two tricks that I really like. First would be putting R bass, Waves R bass on it, which is basically like a it's like a sub-harmonic synthesizer kind of thing. So basically like you kind of set like sort of a focus range for like the plugin to listen to, and then it generates like some harmonics and stuff that make it feel like there's more bass below that. So that's really been useful for like filling out a lot of that low end stuff. So that's the other thing I like to do is there's another Waves plugin. It's the Shep 73 plugin. And that one is basically, it's like a Neve EQ essentially. You could do this with, I mean, any EQ, doesn't really matter. But it's got like one of the EQ points is at like 37 hertz, and which seems like, you know, really, really low, but it's like a shelf. So it's got this like really nice slope to it. And if you just like crank that, it just like fills in those like really like sub lows really nicely. So that's definitely something I've been leaning on for that.
John says, take a look at Waves Submarine and layer that in when you want sub bass. Is that what you were talking about?
So our bass is a little bit different. The processes on that are pretty similar. Okay. I've tried Submarine before. For whatever reason, our bass is just the one that I usually use. So that's kind of just been a go-to.
Fam TV is in the chat today, and they say it's Slate triggers mixed in with natural sounds. Thanks for taking a listen.
Yeah.
And they say triggers only on the kick and snare, though. Everything else is 100% drums. What do you do at your church for your drum sounds?
Yep. So the thing that I realized I was struggling with on drums was getting like really like kind of the room sound. I was getting like a really nice like direct sound, like so you can get like the really, you know, the punchy, cracky snare, like the impact of the kick. But the thing that I felt like I was missing was kind of like the decay and like the sustain that you get. And I think we're really used to hearing that like kind of room sound on like studio recordings. So, like they'll have room mics that are set up and they kind of capture like the ambience of the drum kit. And obviously in a live situation, you're not really getting that. So what I do is I actually layer in room samples on my kick and my snare. And so I'm using basically like all the direct sound is just coming off like top and bottom mics and kick in, kick out. And then triggering just a little bit of like a room sample that it basically acts like it's almost like another reverb essentially, but it just really helps fill out the decay and the sustain of the drums.
Interesting. Okay, I've never heard somebody do that. What samples are you using?
Gosh, that's a great question.
Are you just getting them from like Perks Live or Steven Slate samples or something like that?
Perks Live. And also, I was using that sound for a long time. And Drum Sample Shop is another great one. It's Peyton Hilliard from Leland. It's his company, and yeah, they do some great stuff.
What about the idea that people have when we talk drums and bass of doing these like, I don't know if it's parallel or you like duplicate the channel strip and then you make a dirty version of that? Do you ever do any of that kind of thing?
For sure. I do that a little bit on the close mics, and really that's actually also sort of a attempt to get more of that sustain and decay. So what's going on there is I'll send my kick, snare, and toms over to another group essentially with just those instruments in it or those inputs in it, and I'm hitting that with an API 2500 compressor from Waves, and basically just like kind of crushing it. Like it really just smacks down on like all the kind of like the impact and the pop of it, and it sort of leaves and like accentuates the decay and the sustain. So what I've discovered is that like when you blend those together, it just makes the drums like fill out and get like bigger sounding. So that's kind of the mentality behind it. So it's not really about like distortion or anything. It's really about kind of like shaping the attack and the sustain of the instruments.
Sweet, man. No, those are good tips. If you guys have any other questions for Johnny, drop them in the chat. We're going to move on to Mission Bible Church. So let's see if I can get them pulled up here. I got to escape out of that. We'll go goodbye, Fam TV. Great job. All right, this is Mission Bible Church. Here we go.
We're going to worship our God and proclaim the great things that He has done in our lives through His work on the cross. Come, let us worship our King. Come, has done. See how his love overcomes. He has done great things. He has done great things. Oh, hero of heaven, you conquered the grave. You free every captive and break every chain. Oh God, you have done great things. We dance in your freedom, awake and alive. Oh Jesus, our Savior, your name lifted high. Oh God, you have done great things.
All right, cool. That's Mission Bible, and their setup is a Dante split from stage rack into a Mac Mini in-one, running Pro Tools in an isolated room. So, any opening thoughts there, Johnny?
Yeah, for sure. So my first thought was, man, I love being able to hear the room mics like right off the top. I think obviously you've got a great video on that I love. And yeah, room mics are so important for getting kind of like the sound to sound like it's really in the space that you're in. And I think they've done a really great job of that.
That's cool. One thing that I hear that I think a lot of churches struggle with is that acoustic sound. Whenever somebody like myself has a guitar that just has a piezo pickup in it, and what do you do to get those sounding as good as possible?
Yeah, so a lot of it does depend on just like what's coming down the line to you. Some of them sound really good, some of them sound really, really bad and require a lot more work. Generally, what I've found though is there's going to be like some mid-range areas that you just need to carve out. And yeah, don't be like afraid to like get aggressive with it. Like sometimes there's just some stuff that'll build up around like maybe like 600 to 800 hertz or somewhere kind of in that like kind of almost like a small radio speaker sounding frequency range from like 1K to like 3K. And you just kind of dig those out when you hear them. That helps a lot. I just like, usually what I'll do is I'll go like listen to the acoustic guitar, just like, you know, have them like play on stage for a second, and like hear what the guitar itself actually sounds like. And then listen to it through the PA and be like, okay, what are the differences that I'm hearing? What's like different from what the guitar actually sounds like to what I'm hearing as I hear it through the PA? And I'll try to like equalize to get those differences as minimal as possible.
I gotcha. Do you have a favorite acoustic pickup that you really like it whenever somebody shows up and they have an Anthem pickup installed or something?
Yeah, the LR Bag's Anthem's really good. So actually, the worship leader at our church, John Myers, he's got a couple of the Maton guitars. I think they're from Australia or something like that. And they've got their own pickup system in it that's like a blend. It's got a little condenser mic in it, like the Anthem, but then also piezo, and you can like blend between it. And for whatever reason, that's like the most natural sounding pickup system I've ever heard. It doesn't sound like quite as like big and hyped as the Anthem does, but it's just like, it just sounds like the guitar, which is kind of exactly what I want. So yeah, the Maton guitars, I don't know what the actual like pickup name is, but yeah, they're killing it for sure.
That's cool. Hey, let's listen to the stereo image and actually talk about it this time. It felt like for me earlier on when we were listening that I wish that maybe there was a little more separation. Like, what do you go for with stereo image stuff, especially for live stream setups?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I'm a huge fan of making things feel like as stereo and as wide as I possibly can make them. So obviously stuff that's coming to you in stereo, like, you know, keyboard, you know, stereo guitars, whatever, like go hard left and hard right. I think that obviously makes it feel pretty large. But then stuff that's coming to you in mono, I like to play around with like placing that in different places. Obviously some stuff is going to be right the middle, you know, kick, snare, bass, like those are always going to be dead center. Lead vocals always dead center. But then you got, you know, background vocals, guitars, like even if guitars are coming in stereo, you can still like tilt the stereo image to one side or the other.
What about tom panning? How far should we be panning our toms?
Yeah, so I like it if you're like kind of looking at the pan knob to be like, you got two toms set up. I'll do kind of like 10 o'clock and like 2 or 3 maybe. That's generally where I keep it. If I'm doing 3 toms, I'll kind of like space those other one, like the 2 floor toms a little bit more, or the second tom and third tom, I guess.
Do you do it looking at the drums or drummer's perspective?
Yeah, so I'll do it for the in-room mix. I'll do it in the live stream. I guess I'll do it from the audience's perspective. For studio stuff, like if I'm mixing like a live record or something, I'll do it drummer's perspective usually, just because that's how we're kind of used to hearing toms panned, like kind of from like I guess, you know, like drummers, like they've got their rack tom over here on the left, on their left, and then floor tom stuff on their right. So I'll do it that way. But yeah, audience, I'll usually kind of flip it.
Okay.
Overheads too. And
interesting.
And I have heard some people who have had their toms and overheads panned like in opposite directions. So yeah, always make sure that you're maintaining the coherency of like, okay, if you got your, you know, like your ride side over here, you know, on the right or on the left, whatever you pick, make sure your floor toms are on that side as well. Same with like the hi-hat side and your rack tom.
Gotcha. All right, let's listen just a little bit more here to Mission Bible and give him just one more round of feedback here.
How good is he? Forgiveness isn't bound by circumstance. 'Cause he's the God of second chance. How good is he? When a sinner's heart is all that I can bring, still he welcomes me. How good is he?
All right, so is the snare sample a little too gunshotty for you?
I think it's a little bit much, to be honest. Like, I mean, it's not like a bad sound, but yeah, it's probably blended a little too hot for my taste. I think honestly, the biggest thing I'm noticing is that the ambience on the sample doesn't match the ambience of anything else in the mix. And so by that is it's got that really like kind of splatty, like short reverb kind of thing going on, and everything else feels like a bigger, like longer decay. Like the room mics and, you know, like what he's got on the vocals, all that kind of stuff is a little bit longer. So then you've got this really like short, like plop, you know, that's happening on the snare. So I'd love to hear something that just kind of like matches the ambience of everything else. And then probably just like blend that sample down a little bit more.
Yeah, that's cool, man. All right, well, that was Mission Bible, and I want to thank them for submitting. And speaking of drum samples, I do have a video I released where we've just been recently diving into this drum sample thing. And so I have samples of the samples, me sampling the samples, if you want to go watch that, guys. If you're trying to decide, like, where should I find these samples if we're diving into it. One question I do have for you before we move on to our third one is we are trying to live sample our drums through an SBDSX. And we've had pretty good success, but one thing I've noticed is it has about 10 milliseconds of latency between the roll-in triggers through the SBDSX to the front of house. And so what would you do in that situation? Because I personally just delayed the snare sample live 10 milliseconds. I don't know if that's horrible or not.
Yeah, that's basically exactly what I do as well. So any kind of triggering setup is going to have some latency. If you're going software, it's going to be a little more. If you've got like a physical sampler, like we actually use the Pearl Mimic Pro, which is awesome. But the like SBDS is kind of same deal. So yeah, you'll get some, you know, amount of milliseconds of delay. So what you want to do is like just really figure out exactly like what that delay is. I think like on our setup with the Pearl units, like 8 milliseconds. So basically, yeah, I'm just going to delay all the other like actual drum mics by 8 milliseconds. So they line up with where the sample is firing. And generally that's, you know, unnoticeable at front of house. In monitors, you know, you might, if you're trying to run a sample through monitors, I don't know if I'd recommend that anyway. But if you're trying to do that, obviously that's going to be a little more noticeable. But yeah, so I just delay everything else to kind of line up with where I know the sample is going to fire.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Mission Bible says, thanks for listening and thanks for the feedback. You guys are very welcome. There's some other thoughts on here. John asks, opinion on snare levels. Like, should it be as loud as the vocals? Like, where do you have that sit in your mix?
Yeah. That's a great question. And it's tough because it really changes song to song. Like, it's like a big like hype song. Like, I want to like feel that snare and just like really have it punch through. But at the same time, it's really easy to go overboard with having like that big snare sample, especially if you're sampling it, and having it too loud and it kind of overtakes everything and becomes distracting. So I don't, personally for me, I'm like, I want the vocals to shine above everything. And even though snare takes up like kind of a different portion of the frequency spectrum than vocals do, they still can kind of like compete with each other, not so much for like space in the frequency spectrum, but for space in like your attention. And so I don't want to distract from what's going on with the vocal. Even if my snare sounds like amazing, I don't want to like distract somebody with the snare sound when they're trying to listen to the vocal. So I'll generally tuck it just a little bit under the vocal. Level wise, kick will come like a little bit below that, but like pretty close. I want like kick and snare to almost be like the tick and the tock of like a clock going back and forth. So that's what, is like providing the rhythmic foundation for the mix. Like it's really important, but you don't want it to overtake the vocal.
No, that's a good thought. Hey, we had a question come in that I think is really pertinent because of a video you just released. Michael asked, is AI mixing a thing yet? I'm going to let you take this one and talk about it for a second. Give us your elevator pitch here.
Yeah. So I think AI mixing is coming. It's already here in the studio world. There are some like plugins and stuff that have got like some AI and some like neural network like training going on, which I think is really cool. So to me, the place where I see like us engineers benefiting from AI is when it can take care of like menial tasks for us that like we've got to do, but it's kind of like stuff that'll speed up our workflows. Like it's not the stuff that like takes away from our creativity or like robs us of our our perspective on like how we like a mix to sound. I don't want to like mix for us, but if I can have an AI tool that like detects resonances in the vocal and will notch those out or something, like that's awesome. I'm all about that. Or we're like I can feed something like a reference basically and have it kind of like match some stuff. Like that's incredible. So I think it's just a tool set, and like any tool set, it can go too far. You can like take the creativity out of it. But for the most part, I think that we're entering into a space where hopefully the people who are making these tools are going to use them to enhance the creative process. And just like use it to do things that'll make our lives easier, not stuff that takes away from like the artistic perspective that we have as engineers.
Bam, there you go, guys. It's like I always say, use the tools, don't be a tool.
Yeah, exactly. Well said.
All right, let's move on to our third review here. We're going to look at Family Worship Center. They have an Allen and Heath SQ6 that's sending 32 channels to a Mac running Logic Pro with the Luke Hendrickson template, which a lot of you guys probably may have tried out or heard about. So let's give this one a listen.
Good morning, Family Worship Center. So glad you're in the house of the Lord today. Y'all ready to worship? If you're joining us online, sing this out with us. Come on, hands together. There's a song in my spirit. There's a song in my soul. Come what will, come what may, I'll worship anyway. Oh, the devil can try it, try to quiet this song that I'll sing out even louder than before. Lift it up. I'm gonna lift my voice and sing. I'm gonna give him everything. I'm gonna shout until these walls come down. I see the light in Jesus' name. I'm gonna light my fears away. I'm gonna dance until these legs give out.
All right, that's Family Worship Center. What are your opening thoughts here, Johnny?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of good stuff going on in this mix. I think obviously Luke's template is really solid. Definitely a big fan of that. So I think like, yeah, what they're doing is really solid. I like, again, I can really hear the room mics. I can really like get a feel for like what I think it sounds like in the room. So yeah, I think there's some solid stuff going on here.
Yeah, I've been interested in trying out the Luke Hendrickson template. I actually just recently got the full availability of waves, like just to be able to try them, and I've never messed with waves at all. So we've always done post fader stereo bus matrix mix based on it's not even monitored on our live stream, like no one's even listening to it. live. So so I'm interested to try out Luke's template. Some of the things I heard was, at least on my end, it seemed like maybe vocals might be a little hot in the mix. You know, you can nitpick this stuff to death. I wish there was a little more drums. Shout out to the lady drummer, by the way. Come on. But I love the energy that you guys are bringing with this. Let's listen just a little bit more. Let's listen for like instrumentation mix in our songs and see how that sounds here.
In the name of Jesus we believe. Yes it is. Spirit of joy's breaking out. Thank you, Lord. How we walked in won't be how we leave it. He is doing something new, and we know that he's on through. It's the name of Jesus we believe it. It's the name of Jesus we believe it.
Any thoughts on where instruments are sitting?
Yeah, I do agree with you. I think drums are sitting a little low, actually, which is unusual, honestly. I feel like most of the time, especially with like mixes happening in Pro Tools, a lot of times like, oh, the drums sound great, let's crank them. And you get like a mix that's like way like overhyped on drums. So yeah, I think like, I would pull up drums a bit, especially, drummer's killing it. She's awesome. So I'd love to hear more of that. I think, maybe it's maybe skewed a little too much towards the vocals. One of the things I really like about Luke's template is that it comes with like it's like a verse and a chorus that they recorded at Bethel, that you can kind of get a feel for like where the levels are supposed to be. So when you're using somebody else's template, obviously you're running into the situation of like, it was set with their mics, their instruments, their players, their, style, like everything. So you're kind of having to like match what they're doing to get it to sound like the end result that they've got. So what I like to do, and like I've got Luke's template, and like this is kind of like I've actually used a lot during COVID when we were like pre-recording stuff and then streaming it. And so what I would do is I'd pull in like all your tracks, and then like especially match the levels with the tracks that like Luke included with the template. So you can make sure that like you're getting the right amount of compression, the right amount of like input to each channel, just the right balance. I think that'll really help with a couple of these issues that are happening.
Do you have any tricks for people that have groups of vocals to get them sitting well together? Do you do like a sub bus that you compress together, or how do you manage that? Especially if somebody is leading one song, but then they're not the rest of the time. What do you do in that situation?
Yeah, for sure. I think that's kind of tricky. Because I will say I do have my vocals all grouped together. I don't go super hard with any processing on that group. I've got, I think it's I think I've got a C6 on there, just a multi-band compressor to like basically just dip out a little bit in the like kind of upper mids, like probably between like 1K and 5 or 6K. And that's an area that I feel like can get harsh if like all the vocalists are like kind of coming in together. So if that happens, the thresholds that it'll bring that range down just a little bit if like all the vocalists come in and are singing very loud. But yeah, in terms of getting the balance right, I think the real thing there is just like you got to be on those faders like pretty much constantly. You have to know like who's singing what parts, when the parts are coming in, how loud the person is who's leading stuff. So yeah, definitely it's not just like a set it and forget it kind of situation. You really have to be like pretty active with those.
That's cool. I want to say thank you to Family Worship Center for submitting. And speaking of how loud something is, we have a really good question that I think is asked all the time. How loud are you sending your mix to YouTube? Do you have any tools available to understand where we should be hitting when we're sending our live stream mix out?
Yeah. So here's the deal with that. I think there's a lot of speculation about like, oh man, if you get it like, this loud, it's like what YouTube wants. It was like 14 LUFS or something. And just first, I do always meter our live stream on the Waves loudness meter plugin. That's a really great one. But honestly, anything that gives you a LUFS reading is going to be what you're after. LUFS is like a pretty accurate way. It's kind of like becomes sort of the standard of like how we measure loudness in audio. And it just stands for loudness units full scale, LUFS. And so YouTube says that their like optimum level is like minus 14 LUFS. And so the reality though is that almost no one who's like uploading music uploads it at minus 14 LUFS. So like, you know, commercial releases, that kind of stuff, like it's all mastered to like, you know, -8 or even louder than that. And just so we're clear, like as you get closer to 0, that's like the louder that it is. So -8 is louder than minus 14. So I generally send mine around -10. That's just like kind of the level that I think sounds good. And I know like there is some stuff like YouTube can potentially, you know, turn it down or turn it up if it's loud, you know, too loud or not loud enough. I haven't noticed really any artifacts from that, and I think like what we get is a level that like sounds competitive with other, you know, music that someone might listen to on YouTube, and you know, doesn't sound like too much louder or too much softer than anything else that's happening. And it keeps like the dynamic range in a place where I like it. I think that's the bigger thing, is like, you know, what kind of dynamic range are you looking for? You're likely going to have more dynamic range if your music is averaging at like minus 14 LUFS than you will if it's at minus 10 or even louder. So it's really more to me about like, hey, what kind of dynamic range are you wanting to send? And then, you know, kind of experimenting with that and seeing what sounds right to you, like as you listen back to your stream.
If somebody doesn't mix in a box and have the capability to live see the LUF metering and all that, is there a good way for us to maybe take our recorded mix from last week, and is there a free plugin or anything out there? I've heard of like LoudMax, I think, is a plugin, but I don't know if it does LUFs. Do you know?
That one, I've never used it. I know there's some free tools out there for sure. I'll have to double check and see like what is available. Yeah, I always just use Waves Loudness Meter.
Yeah, so if you guys know of a tool, post in the comments today of something that maybe you have used to kind of check that out. For us, we just throw the precision limiter on there from our M32, and I think we just use whatever Cade Young from Collaborate Worship told me to do. All right, man. Well, I'm going to throw one more at you if that's okay, and then I've got some questions for you.
Let's go.
All right, so I'm going to be selfish, and I'm going to make you listen to our live stream from last week.
Oh, perfect.
So, and I want you to be brutal with me because that's why you're here, right? So let's pull up one from last week. And again, this is just a M32 stereo bus matrix mix.
With 1,000 tongues to lift one cry, from north to south and east to west, we'd hear Christ be magnified. And were the whole earth echoing his immanence, his name would burst from sea and sky, and from rivers to the mountain tops, we'd hear Christ be magnified. Come on, Central, lift it up. We're singing, oh, Christ be magnified. Let his praise arise. Christ be magnified in me. Oh, Christ be magnified from the altar of my life. Christ be magnified in me.
All right, here comes some drums.
When every creature finds its inmost melody, and every human art its native cry, and then in one enraptured hymn of praise, we'll sing Christ be magnified. Oh, be magnified. We're singing, oh, Christ be magnified.
right, there you go, guys. That's my church's live stream mixed without anyone monitoring it. I usually just check it after rehearsal and say, I think that's close enough. So what tips and tricks would you give me?
Dude, no, first, it's great. I mean, like, wow, who's that angelic voice worship? He's really good. But yeah, no, I think you've got something really solid here. So that's all at the M32?
Yeah, just all straight from M32 into our ATEM.
Solid. Gosh, I think like whoever's running sound for you guys is doing a great job of like really like dialing in on some EQ stuff, like getting everything to sit really nicely. I think balance is really solid.
What would you do for, in our case, like those girls lead a song, but then they don't lead a song? So usually they're just barely panned, but that panning doesn't change when they go to lead the song. So should I not pan them?
Man, I would say I think keeping them barely panned is fine. So what I'll do in that situation is like if I can't like automate panning with like snapshots or something, I will pan it the way that people are laid out on stage. And I think that just kind of helps, you know, sort of reinforce like the spatial imaging and like how the feel of the room translates to online. So I think that's fine. Like obviously don't go super hard with it, but you know, if you pan like, you know, just a little bit as they, you know, as they're, oh, somebody dropped a camera there.
I know.
But yeah, as they're positioned on the stage, just like having him, you know, in a line like that, I think is pretty good. Do you guys usually have like whoever like main worship leaders like towards the center?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's probably the answer is just like, you know, you can then have the people who are on the edges who are just doing BGVs, like have them pan a little bit more to their respective sides, and then, you know, have, you know, slight panning on people who might be leading like closer to the center.
I mean, I've thought about even we have automated turning on and off our drum samples with MIDI from ProPresenter. And I guess I technically could like do that with MIDI, you know, reset pans.
Yeah, you definitely could. Mm-hmm.
So
do you guys run like snapshots and stuff on the M32, or how's that working?
We don't.
That's fine.
Basically, all of my guys are volunteer, and I have 4 different that step in, and I just ask them to run faders. That's all they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
So they've been trained on some of the other stuff, but like they don't know how to redo compression or anything like that, you know. So now one thing I am toying with, and what is your opinion on right now? Our tracks are all just mono. Like we have a left side is click and guide, right side is tracks. But sometimes I wonder if I just went to them even just stereo tracks, how much would that open up the sound?
I massively open up the sound. Yeah, that's definitely a huge thing. I think it's like there's so much stereo content in multi-tracks stuff. Just, you know, it's all like studio stuff where like they're already like widening it and like getting a really good, you know, like different takes for like left and right sides, especially on guitars and keys and stuff. So yeah, if you do that, like you'll open up also a lot more space in the center of your mix. So whereas right now there might be things that are kind of like competing and cluttering up like the middle of the stereo field, if you can like open that up, you'll have more room for vocals and kick and snare to live. So yeah, I think that'd be really good.
Yeah, I'm toying with that idea. The way I do it now is we bounce everything down to a stereo file and it's played through ProPresenter, but Brad Zimmerman, I don't know if you know about him, he's talked about how he exports a WAV file in surround sound. And so that way you can actually have up to, I think, 16 channels out of ProPresenter. Of course, he mixes it down to, I think, 8. So then it's coming out over SDI. He has a very complicated setup. But it's like, could I bounce down a WAV file that has stereo sound but multi-channel audio that's coming out of ProPresenter? So that's something, if you guys are interested, I might do it.
Yeah, I think you definitely do that. I mean, so we were using Ableton for a long time and then moved over to multi-tracks playback because it's so easy. So I really like that solution, you know, if you've got the inputs on your M32 for it.
How are you running playback?
Yeah, so we're over Dante right now, so everything just comes in over Dante Virtual Sound Card, and that's worked great for us. So we actually have like the actual like tracks computers back by our drummer, and then our MD has got an iPad that's playback just introduces like kind of remote connection thing, so you can like remotely control playback from another device. And so he's got an iPad with that just kind of over by his station, so he can see stuff and like, you know, make sure that the correct track is firing, and, you know, for like looping a section, he can do all that stuff. But yes, that's kind of our basic setup for it.
Are you doing anything else through playback? Are you sending MIDI cues? Are you connected stage with chord charts, all that stuff?
Sometimes yes. So we get all of our like per presenter songs imported off of multi-tracks. So they do come like with the chord chart and everything kind of built into it. So we do have a stage display that displays all that info, which is great. We sometimes will link it so that playback will run per presenter for worship, and you have all the lyric changes happening automatically from that. We have one person who runs per presenter. Actually, it's my wife, who is a great musician, and she loves to run per presenter manually, so she'll do it manually. But for a lot of our other volunteers, they like to not have to think about it as much, so we'll let playback run it.
Awesome. Very cool. Well, thanks for those thoughts, dude. Really good stuff. Guys, in the next hour, I'm going to be reviewing more of your live streams, so stick around for that. But as we have about 10 more minutes here with Johnny, I want to do a little overrated and underrated with you when it comes to church audio stuff. All right. So we've talked a lot about it, and from the perspective of churches under 1,000, let's say that. So not mega churches. Underrated, overrated. Let's talk about live drum samples.
Okay, I'm not going to say overrated or underrated, but I'm going to say overused.
Okay.
I think it's actually Lee Fields and I were having a little discussion on Instagram about this the other day. That just like it sounds goofy when your drums are like just like shotgun, especially like on a roll or something, like and it's like clearly all the same sample. Like that just doesn't sound good. So I think it's maybe like taking a step back, asking yourself, like, what do I actually need this drum sample for? Like, is it just because I don't know how to EQ a snare drum right? And then maybe like going and getting some training, some more experience in doing that rather than like leaning on a sample as a crutch. And sorry if that came across a little bit harsh, but I think that does happen sometimes. If it's it's kind of like, wow, the sample sounds good right out of the box, so I'm just going to use that, rather than like working with your drummer on tuning and how they play and really dialing in on your EQ and compression settings and gate settings to really make your actual live drums sound good. So I'm going to say not overrated or underrated, but overused.
Speaking of EQ, if you don't know how to EQ a snare, it looks like you've got a free EQ sheet right here that people can get.
worshipsoundguy.com. You can grab a free EQ cheat sheet, and I'll be more than happy to tell you all about EQing a snare.
That's cool, man. Is that something that Steven Slate Drum Trigger is going to use multiple different samples, where like the way I'm doing it is just one sample?
Yeah, so when you use it with Slate, you can have you can fire a one shot from it, but you can also the better thing to do is to load in one of their like multi like round robin samples, so you will get more variation in it. But yeah, if you run it like off an SPD where there's just one sample loaded in, that's when I think like the kind of like shotgun effect really happens.
That makes sense. All right, underrated and overrated for churches under 1,000, live vocal tuning.
Ooh. That's contentious. I think if you can do it, you should definitely at least experiment with it. I think it can take like a vocal from like really good to great. Like it's not gonna like save a bad vocalist or anything like that. That's just not how that algorithm works. But I think it can. So what I like to do with it, so we use tuning at our church on all of our vocalists. Sometimes I'll turn it off, for like certain parts of a song or something. But for me, I want the vocalist, the worship leader, to be able to focus on leading worship. I don't want them to have to think about like, man, it's 9 a.m. Is my voice gonna like hit this note perfectly? Or like, gosh, am I like super confident on like where this harmony is gonna land? It's gonna lock in with everybody. So that's really where I see tuning coming in, is like it's like a confidence booster for your worship leaders that frees them up and allows them to focus on leading worship rather than like worrying about like, is their vocal delivery going to be like exactly what they want it to be.
Okay. Underrated, overrated for churches under 1,000, DAW mixing versus just taking one from the board mix.
I'm gonna say that's overrated. I think you do not need a DAW to get a great sounding mix. You should be able to get it coming off your board. I think if you're listening back like to your board mix, you're like, wow, that sounds terrible. You know, like in my car or like whatever. That's something where you're really gonna want to address those issues like at the console, and usually there means there's an underlying problem either with the tuning of the PA or the way you're approaching your console mix. If it's not like at least sounding pretty good when you listen back to your board mix. So yeah, I think like board mix plus some room mics, maybe a little like, you know, you sweeten it up, like make a little, you know, like a mastering chain to like add some top end, maybe add a little bass to it, widen the stereo field, put a limiter on it, that kind of thing. But I think that should sound pretty solid.
All right. How about this idea of like wave stream or remote mixing that a lot of people are throwing out there? Hey, we have the ability to mix your live stream remotely. Is that something that's underrated or overrated?
Yeah, I think we're just on the cusp of like getting some really interesting stuff happening with that. So I'm personally intrigued by it. I think it might be underrated at this point, especially, you know, if you're a smaller church, you just don't have the resources to devote to dialing that kind of stuff in, or maybe like there's a limitation on, you know, track count or like whatever you're trying to deal with, and you can send it out to somebody else and have them work on it. Like, I think that's really cool.
Yeah, I think it's neat. I mean, you're right. I feel like we're on the cusp of being able to do that kind of stuff. So wave stream, I saw Churchfront talking about it yesterday, and looks like, you know, something interesting that might be able to help with that.
Yeah, for sure.
What is the most underrated button on a mixer?
The mute button. No. Maybe a little bit. I think, gosh, yeah, most underrated button. I'm gonna say it's your EQ bypass button. I think a lot of people will kind of jump into EQ and they'll do like a bunch of like wild EQ moves, and they'll work off the same. Just a soapbox of mine is like, start with a fresh template every single Sunday. Like, don't work off your previous week's mix, because like stuff will build up, and like weird EQ moves that you had to make for like a particular situation will like stack on top of each other, and eventually you end up with just like this like crazy mix of stuff that you're like, you don't even quite know why it's set up that way. So what I like to do if I come into a place where they're not really working off a solid template is I'll go through and just like bypass all those EQs and see what the source tones are actually sounding like. And a lot of times you pull it off and it's like, okay, yeah, it needs some EQ, but it doesn't need all the stuff that's on there currently. And so I think just like being able to take a step back, evaluate what the sound is actually sounding like at the source, and then being able to like make an intentional decision, like what does this actually need to get it to where I want it to be sound wise. I think that's something that has really helped me when it comes to EQ.
All right, let's switch gears from live stream to front of house or in the room mix. Underrated or overrated stereo in-house speakers?
Ooh, I'm gonna say underrated. I think stereo is like pretty critical. So our old system that we had, it was a Renkus Hines system, and it was like a point source system. It basically had like 3 like sort of clusters of speakers, and the people who integrated it, like, you know, 20 something years ago, took sort of an interesting approach to it where they actually had stereo within each cluster. So like we have kind of like 3 sections of seating in our auditorium. So like each one is sort of like was covered by like one of those clusters, and so each cluster had like a left and a right speaker. And so like theoretically it meant that like each section kind of got their own stereo mix, but in practice it basically sounded like mono. And so then because this was 2021, we upgraded to a D&B system, this full stereo, and like the difference in the room, just being able to hear like the immersiveness that happens with a real stereo mix was like night and day. So yeah, I would say if you've got the capability for stereo, you definitely want to be using that.
Man, that's encouraging to hear, because we're moving to stereo in our worship center remodel. So yes,
that's awesome.
All right, final underrated, overrated. I want you to think of digital mixers, and I want you to give your most underrated and your most overrated mixers for churches?
Man, this is tough. Okay, I'm gonna say underrated. Okay, I'm gonna go classic here. I'm gonna go with X32. I think it's still a good mixer, and I think even like Behringer knows that because they haven't discontinued it like since releasing the Wing. It's like they know there's still a place for it. Obviously it's not like my all-time favorite mixer to mix on or anything, but like when you get it dialed in, you can get an absolutely great mix on. Like same thing with the M32. Like it's really good. And then overrated, I'm gonna say, gosh, this is tough because like I think like my impulse is to say like some of the big mixers that are like maybe like overkill for like 99% of churches. Like just don't, they don't need a Digico 338. But at the same time, it's like there's a time and a place for everything.
Yeah.
And even those mixers that are realistically kind of overkill. So yeah, I think like my overrated would be like a mixer that's way bigger than what you need.
Yeah.
Have been in a few churches like back in the day where they're using like the gigantic like Avid Icon like console or D show, whatever the really really big one was, and it was like the size of like a large format like analog console, but it's like it's all digital, and the engineers have to like walk from one side to the other to like access all his faders and stuff. I'm like, okay, that's just overkill for what you actually need. So I think overrated is having more mixer than you need.
That makes sense, man. That's good. We debated on Avantis going all Allen and Heath, or moving or keeping in the Behringer ecosystem, and just for cost wise, we ended up going with Wing as we go forward. We're going to move the M32 into our broadcast audio.
Nice, yeah, that'd be great.
And hopefully, if we want to have the capabilities of doing live mixing on that in the box, maybe using it as a DAW controller or something.
Yep, that's exactly what I would do with it.
So, all right, man. Well, I want you to finish up by telling us a little bit more about Worship Sound Guy, and I'll just kind of scrub through your website here. You tell us about courses you've got. What do you have to offer, man?
Yeah, man, we got a bunch of stuff. Man, I hate like hyping myself up. But yeah, so I think my passion with Worship Sound Guy is to try to equip church audio techs, whether they're volunteer or staff or tech directors or worship leaders, whoever it is, with the tools that they need to get great sounding audio every single Sunday. I think like audio is very technical. There's a lot of different ways to approach mixing for churches, and so we've tried to kind of like systematize some things that we found over the years that just work really well, and also provide a platform that can help train volunteers and kind of get everyone on the same page when it comes to mixing. So a lot of the stuff that we offer, like our Sound Guy Essentials course, actually those are our very first course we ever made, and that's kind of like our like 0 to hero mixing course, where like we start with like what is a microphone, how does it work, like what's a DI box, and then take it all the way through a final mix. And then we have the other more specialized courses, like we have an X32 course. We have actually probably my favorite course is our drums masterclass. We teamed up with a drummer. His name's Brandon Coker. He's played for like Passion and Hillsong and David Crowder and like all these people. And he goes through like drum tuning and setup. And then Matt, the other guy who runs Worship Sound Guy with me, and I then take it into mixing and show you exactly like how to take like a well-tuned, well-set-up drum kit and make it sound absolutely incredible. So yeah, if you want your drums to sound great, you don't want to like rely on samples, this is the course for you. It's been really cool to have that. And then the other thing that I think I'm probably most excited about right now is our new Insiders community group. And basically, it's kind of a dream that we had for like a long time. We realized that like church audio techs, like we're kind of isolated, right? Like we're back there in the booth on Sunday. It's like we're just a little bit disconnected from potentially like the worship team, and also just like from each other. Like there's usually just one guy running sound, and he doesn't have anybody to like bounce ideas off of or like learn from or get training from. And so we started this online community where you can network, you can learn from other church audio techs. We have guests on every single month. Like a couple months ago, we had Michael Lewis from Colony House come on and like mix the Colony House song from scratch and like take Q&A and do all this stuff. It was so fun. So like we do events like that. We do some live stream reviews. But yeah, it's really just like a great place to be able to connect and, you know, get questions answered and just like not feel like you're doing it on your own. So that's something that I'm super excited about.
That's really cool, man. Well, guys, in the chat today, just leave a thank you in the comments for Johnny as he took time out of his Friday to come on here and just, you know, show some love to our community here on YouTube. And so if you haven't subscribed to him, head over to his YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button, and then worshipsoundguy.com. All right, man.
It's been so fun. Loved being on here.
It's been a blast. All right, hour number 2 is coming, guys. I'm going to say goodbye to Johnny and take a little drink break, and then we'll head into hour number 2. All right. Thanks, Johnny.
Central control.
Why, thank you, good sir. I got to take that off. You got to. You got to be shameless about it. No shame here. Got to feed them babies. All right, guys, it's time for hour number 2 here on the live stream. Today, I've got a few more opportunities to review some of your live streams. Now, there was 25 of you that submitted your live streams, and so we're not going to get to all of them, but there is that opportunity for the Superchat fastpass. $10 gets you to the front of the line. And as we prepare to do some of that stuff here, I just want to give a little shout out to those in the chat today that are participating. Dustin says, Ryland is the best. Much love all the way from Pawleys Island, South Carolina. Me and Dustin go way back, so thanks for the love, dude. I really appreciate it. Ben says, this music sounds super Southeast Asian. He would know. He would know. Isaac says, the beard is looking stellar today. Why, thank you, sir. I didn't do anything different. So I'll take it. I receive that. And let's see. Thank you. I just discovered this and look forward to future episodes. That's cool. Awesome. I'm so glad. That was a great first hour, right? Man, so much knowledge there from Johnny. Really appreciate him taking the time to hop on there. And just even some of the stuff that I hadn't even thought of that he was bringing up were great points. So if you guys are enjoying having those experts come on and it's not just me just saying whatever I think, let me know. We've got some others already planned. The next 3 are already planned. We'll be talking about lighting systems next month. So I can't reveal who it is quite yet. But yeah, I'm really, really looking forward to that. So let's jump in and talk about some church tech that I've been seeing out there that is on the horizon that I'm somewhat interested in. How about this one? Have you guys seen Free Show? Elevate your presentations with Free Show. It is basically, I downloaded this and checked it out. It seems to be an open source stab at ProPresenter. And if you are a church that doesn't need all of the feature set of ProPresenter, then this is something to check out. It's freeshow.app. If we come over here and look at the features versus ProPresenter, Easy Worship, and these others, you can see that it's very competitive. Let's see what ProPresenter doesn't have that Free Show has. Obviously, they're not going to show the other way around. Chords, well, ProPresenter does have that with multi-tracks. Calendar, I'm not sure what that means because it does have a calendar that you can tell it when to do things. Lock output, okay. Mirror screen, you can't do YouTube with ProPresenter. It looks like you can with Free Show. And themes, customize the look of the application. That's interesting. You ever wanted to customize the way ProPresenter is laid out? I think really though this would be suitable for maybe like if you have a kids ministry that doesn't need all of the stuff that ProPresenter has to offer, you know, and you just need a free version. There's others out there. I've also tried, is it Worship Tools that has kind of the same idea, Presenter. I've downloaded that one before too. It's lightweight, it works well. It would be another good option to save money. And they have some other features as well, like planning and charts. And it's free up to a point, I think, with theirs, like 10 users, you know, with Presenter. So that's from Worship Tools. So freeshow.app is that one. Has anybody checked that one out? It's like ProPresenter if you want to constantly be disappointed. Okay. He says, it's a trap. It's a trap. Okay, so someone with some life experience there, it seems like. Hopefully you're talking about, I don't know which one you're talking about, Free Show or Worship Tools. No, I would not expect to get everything you're getting with ProPresenter, but man, I'm just saying, people all the time are like, you said that was budget. I don't even have $100. I'm like, budget means different things to different people, right? So if you have the budget to get ProPresenter, it's a very wise investment for your church. But if you're a church that has zero money, those are some options you can check out. Larry brings up a good point. I just stay consistent on whatever platform you're going to train volunteers. Yeah, I think that is helpful if you're going to run it in kids ministry, youth ministry, and then they can feed right into, they're like a farm system of volunteers there for you. Because that's the other thing I hear from people all the time is we just don't have any help. I just can't find nobody to help me. Well, ask people. Go to your youth group. Get some students involved, you know. Let's look at another piece of technology that has come out that I don't know when it came out, but this eMotimo is this motion control multi-axis system, and it has like gaming controllers and stuff. You know, $3,000. When you consider something like things that are way more expensive, like rhythm tracks and things like that. I'm not saying this can do that, but it's just an interesting thing I ran across that has multiple axes of control, that if that's something you're really wanting, in your live stream or to use at your church, you could check them out. I don't have anything, but like you could put it on a Dana Dolly and control all of the accesses like that. So it's pretty interesting. That is emotimo.com. I'll link to all these in the description of this video or just do timestamps. How about central control? I've heard of people talking about central control as an alternative to Companion. Companion, I'm sure you're familiar with, but central control is an interesting idea where they can basically they're using software with, you could build a Scarhoy, you could do an X key setup, and it's just more flexible from what I've heard. I don't know a lot about it. Has anybody here used central control? Supposedly it's extremely stable. Like I said, I just don't know. I've never used it. I'm just sharing things I've run across. And if you want to check it out, go for it. Anybody out there used it? Doesn't look like it. Another interesting piece of technology, though. And last, how about these Mevo Core UHD 4K Micro Four Thirds cameras that came out this last week? You may have run across these. They are interesting because they have NDI built in. They're supposed to be kind of these all-in-one things where you use it with their iPad app. Maybe you use the Mevo cameras that they came out with previously. They were like little skinny things that looked like Insta360 Go's. I don't think they're going to have them linked on here. But my thoughts on this off the cuff after watching a couple of review videos are, for $1,000, I think this is dumb to buy. I just wouldn't. I mean, I think it's still not going to be as good as going with like a G85 or a ZV-E10 or a Canon RP. All of those things are sub 1,000, and this does not, it's not coming with a lens. It doesn't have a viewfinder. At that point, you might as well get the Blackmagic Studio. What is the mic? Is it the new Micro? Let's see how much it is. Oh, dude. Yeah, it's $9.95. So if that's something you really need, and it's got SDI. Now, it's just like if you do NDI, maybe the other camera would be more interesting to you. But for the same price, I would probably lean more something like this if that's the style of camera you're needing. They're both Micro Four Thirds. It's just this is going to have like B-RAW and a lot more options and support and things like that. So that's probably the way that I would lean. Well, let's go ahead and dive into some more live stream reviews. So I would like to be able to take any questions that you might have. What do you think about this setup? What do you think about this angle here? I've got some gobos on the wall. We got the guitars hanging there, changing things up a little bit today. We've always got the piano background, which I love. I still love. But part of me just always wants to change things up and go with something different. So if you have any questions about AV, church, media, tech stuff, holla at your boy. That was really dumb. I'm sorry. And we're going to jump into some more live stream reviews. So give me just a second and I'll get these pulled up over here. Move my iPad where I can actually see your comments. All right. Let's see who's going to be first up on our live stream reviews here. We did FAM TVs already. All right. Looks like we got Community Church of God, Fort Lauderdale is who is coming up here. They have an X32 bus mix, 3 Marshall PTZ cameras, 2 POV Marshall cameras, and a Ross Carbonite solo switcher. And he says, critique my work, anything that might help creating a better streaming opportunity for the viewers. So let's go ahead and pull up their stream. And I'm all alone now, guys, so you got to help me out. All right. Volume is coming up. What have I? Oh, it's muted. All right. We're going to. Here we go.
You say, great are you, Lord. Nobody like you, nowhere. We call you great. You're great and greatly to be.
It says that this is in 4K.
Great are you, Lord.
It's
We call you great.
missing focus
Even from
maybe
your
then?
seats, begin to lift up the Father today. Come on. We worship you, Jesus. We call you great. We call you great.
We'll see what kind of happens here when they dive into the song.
Oh.
Just kind of vamping. Oh, we're way ahead in the service. I wonder if we can go back to maybe where we're actually going in the song. She's just kind of vamping here. There we go.
Come on, lift it. You know it in the room. Come on, sing it out to him. Come
Look at
on,
that hazer.
sing it. Sing great are you, Lord.
If you're gonna use haze, I would definitely put a fan underneath it, and maybe even hide it in that room, in that closet with the lights off. I don't know. People might think there's a fire coming out if you did that. So maybe don't do that. It's at the end of the service too. It's always tricky to haze at the end of the service.
It's your breath in our lungs, so we pour it out, pour it out.
Her vocal seems like it could be a little less boxy and muddy in the like 500 hertz range. Maybe is probably where I'd peak to maybe scoop some out.
Your breath in our lungs, so we pour. It's your breath in our lungs, so we pour.
I like the sax.
Come on, one last time. Come on, sing it. It's your breath in our lungs, so we pour it at your feet.
Exposure, colors, all look good.
It's your breath in our lungs.
I've never been a part like of a church where you kind of match together on purpose. Like this looks like it had to have been on purpose, right? Clothing wise, but it looks great.
Come on, this is your opportunity to lift the Father in the room today. Come on, you are great and mighty, Father. There is none like you in all the earth, Jesus. We call you great, great and greatly to be praised. Come on, somebody worship.
So you said your marshals are all PTZ, so that's going to make it tough to follow cam, and it appears to me like it's back focused more. So you might just double check that for your presets on these when they're worship leaders at the front and center here. And let's see if you have, looks like maybe some more camera angles back here that we can peek at real quick.
Lord, you're mighty. Lord, you're mighty. Lord, you're mighty. Lord, you're mighty. The big, big God said. The big, big God said. Say, Lord, you're mighty. Lord, you're mighty.
I mean, it just makes me feel like a horrible musician, basically, when I watch you guys. Like, you're just killing it.
Lord, you're mighty. Say, Lord, you're mighty. You're still strong. You're still able. You're still able. I don't care what the doctor said. I don't care what my money's telling me. God, you're able. Lord, you're able. Say, Lord, you're mighty. Lord, you're
I would say feel free when songs build like this to change camera angles more often and just cut between, you know, you said you got like 5 cameras, so I would just try to match the pacing of the song, the energy of the song to help it translate online. But yeah, man, I think that you guys are doing a good job here. Take some of the stuff that we talked about earlier with live streaming audio and maybe apply that, but your instrumentation, your musicians are killing it. So, yeah, great job. Solid Community Church of God. All right. I did have a question come through. Steve says, I'd like to know the live stream setup you're using now. All right. Real quickly, we can blaze through this, and then we can get to another live stream review. Essentially, what you're looking at here is a GH5 with a Sigma 18-35 lens, f1.8. I'm using just a little Stream Deck Mini to bounce between companion presets that I can do the different macros to the Super Source setups on my ATEM Mini Extreme. So the ATEM Mini Extreme is the video routing device. And then my other camera is a Canon RP with the 85mm 1.8 with a Black Pro Mist filter on it. And then audio-wise, this is an AT2020. It's like a $100 mic. Audio-Technica routed into a Zoom L8. The reason I have the Zoom L8 is because when I bring in guests, they're coming in over here on my old MacBook Pro using VDO.Ninja. That's sending out through electron capture out of the HDMI into the ATEM. So, and then to avoid doubling of the audio, we're sending it out through a Tascam 2x2 interface back into my L8 that can send 4 separate headphone mixes. So I know it's really confusing, but you asked. We're sending 2 separate mixes to the ATEM, one for microphones and one for computer audio, because my microphone, which the delay is different between these cameras, it's 3 frames delayed to match. But if I delayed the video audio, then nobody's, like live streams would, they'd never be in sync. And so that's how that's sending out of there. To like bring up your comments, I'm using H2R graphics, and it's just I think it's like $5 or something to buy, or $10. You can check out H2R graphics, but yeah, that's how I'm doing it. So hopefully that's interesting to you. All right, let's jump into another live stream review. Remember, we've got, let's see, 28 in the can right now, which on deck, I guess you could say. So if you are somebody that really, you just want me to review your live stream live on this live stream, then you can super chat. It's $10, get you that. And also, I do have coaching calls available with Zoom calls that you can schedule through my TidyCal. That should be linked in the description of this. So, hey, looky there, getting us going today.
Thank you.
Thanks, Steve. Yeah, man, it's a deep rabbit hole once you start going into it to try and get everything right. But glad I can be of help. If you have any more questions, just shoot me a message over on Instagram if that's helpful. All right, let's see. We already reviewed Mission Bibles. I'm going to delete them. Let's see here. Okay, here's an interesting one. Bridge Ministry Church, Ricardo submitted their church's live stream, and he says they don't have a person on site doing the mixing. They hired someone to do it remotely. Not ideal, but it's what we have. So that's something we talked about today, and his question is, how is the audio? Sincerely. And so let's dial it up here. And again, this was Bridge Ministry Church. I'll bring in their link over here and we'll give it a listen. So this is a remote audio mix. All right. Must be a little slider around the side there. Okay, they're not using drum samples, I'll tell you that much. Good pianist. I love the energy. I feel like the snare is like a little muddy. What do you guys think? It needs like a little more, little less mid-rangey, bottom mid-range stuff, maybe. I don't know. I wonder if they're using any tracks, because I don't hear them if they are. Yeah, I think so. Could help. Yeah, I think that I love the pacing of your directing here on this opener song. Everybody's in the audience is really engaged. I like the pacing of the cutting. The framing and everything, I don't have a problem with. I think maybe your technology of your camcorders is maybe a little bit older, so that's why we're not seeing as crispy of an image. But this wide shot is pretty well framed. Might have a little too much headroom on that, that I'd bring down a little bit. Let's look through some more of the video stuff. Your drum shot, I think it works fine. I wish there was a little bit more light in your drum cage, possibly. I didn't really hear your electric guitarist much. I like your little slider on the side over here. That's a nice shot. There you go. That's the same one. Thought it was different. Yeah, we're just like losing focus somehow there, and I don't know if it's maybe shake from the camera platform whenever things are big. It's a good shot there down the line of the guitar. I would speed up that slider if you could some. Oh, what are we going on in here? I love that whenever the camera ops like are getting ready for the next shot and they're like, oh, sorry, you were live. All right, not bad at all. But hold the phones because we got another super chat.
Thank you.
Enrique. I don't know what denomination that is, but I'm going to assume that it is worth $10 in American money. And then also coming in hot, Isaac with the super chat. Isaac Lay.
Thank you.
I'm ready to get hurt again. All right. So we will pull up, actually, Isaac's here next. And then Enrique, if you can comment what your church name is, if you did submit your live stream, and we'll get that pulled up as well. Nice audience mix, Larry said on that last one too. So check that out in the chat for some more notes there. Let's find Isaac's. I found you. Solid Rock, Apostolic Church. Everything's through the wing. Broadcast is a separate post fader main output. A bunch of Sony A6000s with different lenses and primes. And then a Marshall CV03. Thankfully being replaced this week. Yeah, the Marshall POV cams, I feel like they're a good start. And if you only have SDI and like you just need something quick and dirty, they're good. But what are you replacing with? Another Sony, which is like a really wide angle lens, 16 mil or something. All right. Time for a good roasting. Here we go. Your LED wall is banding, so I don't know if you can fix that with that doesn't look bad. That's the Marshall 503. I think it looks okay. Let's watch more. Yeah, I don't know if your LED wall stuff, if you could fix that with shutter speed or synchro scan in your Sony cameras. It's not that big a deal. Isaac, I feel like it's not as loud as some of the other ones I've listened to. Any tracks? I don't remember if y'all use tracks. It's a good looking shot. It seemed like audio was delayed, so is that on Hollyland? Are you using wireless? I feel like maybe the vocals are sitting back a little too far just on this first song. You guys have a lot of vocalists going on that I know I'm sure compete with your instrumentation, but I just feel like maybe they're a little too far underneath. And maybe because she doesn't usually lead or something. That happens to us. I like down, ooh, nice little focus pull. Yeah, I hear that too, Larry. And it could be that the focus is set on the back wall too much there. Like on that right here, it appears to me that he's out of focus and that the focus is more on your back line, which is going to cause that banding and stuff on your wall just because it's focused on it. So you just have to really triple check your focus there. I don't really hear your electric guitar. Like I hear a lot of your synth, which is playing a good part, but I don't hear any guitar. There's guitar. Nice shots. Nice pacing. Cut back to her when she's coming back in. Good job. I like the arpeggiator. Yeah, I want those vocals a little bit more out front. Ooh, oh, nice little line. Okay, they are using some tracks. Let's see, how are we building on his? Here we go. I want cameras with movements on these. Good to always go to the drums for energy. Handheld. All right. Nice. Cuts the piano handheld. Now hit to the drum fill. Drum fill. Singer. Oh, you got a drum breakdown now. I love that shot. I mean, it's nice. I mean, one thing I am noticing, and we'll fast forward to another song here. I mean, front key light looks good on these people in the center, but your singers, when they go to these side shots, it's very blue and purpley. You're just getting a lot of color wash on them, which is okay. That's just whatever taste you have for that, whatever you're going with. Let's fast forward to maybe a song where he's leading, if he does. Yeah, I still wish vocals were more out front. And I wish that snare was a little... I wish the snare was either more like gospel pop, like really cracky, or that it was more worship, CCM, low end, punchy. And it's kind of neither right now. Let's go back. You know what I mean?
Your name is worthy, Jesus. Come on, call out the name of Jesus in this place over that situation. Hallelujah, we speak your name, God. Hallelujah, Jesus.
I'm sorry. No, I'm not going to do it. I am. So one thing we continue to talk to our team about is, you know, when you're on live stream, you're on camera and you're not thinking about it in the room. Like I'm watching your electric guitarist over here and he's just hitting a little line every once in a while on this. Watch him though. He just looks so, he's like, I'm done.
Hallelujah, we speak your name, God. Hallelujah, Jesus.
Anyways, let's fast forward just a little bit more. I think he's a great player. It's just an observation, right? That's what he asked for.
Holy, your name is worthy. Your name is Jesus.
Your name is holy.
Your name is holy.
It almost looked like focus changed here. He may be running these manual focus. See, it looked like it's pulsing there, and I wonder, are you using autofocus on any of these? On these Sonys?
Your name is holy.
Your name is holy. Your name is
Okay, yeah, okay.
worthy. Your name is Jesus.
I mean, I would say with an A6000 and as narrow or small stage as you have, you could probably do manual focus on these shots like here, even if it's people on different sides of the stage. I would, like all of ours are manual focus and preset. I know Sony does have good autofocus though, so I mean, that's up to you, whatever you think works best, but I find it to not be reliable in our situation, so.
How beautiful, how marvelous is your.
All right, Isaac, I hope that helps you out, man. I think I continue to see you guys improving and trying to make strides to keep making it better and better. So yeah, I'll be interested to see, you know, in a month or two from now, how you continue to make things better. I would say your video stuff is doing really well. Maybe I'd work on audio even more is what I would probably lean into. So let's see. We're going to pull up Great Assembly of Holy Mountain next. So let's do that. Isaac, thanks for submitting. And thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate it. Gotta feed them babies. All right. I'll find it. Just a second. You say it's Great Assembly of Holy Mountain. I'm not finding it. Did you submit it? I'll just see if I can find you on YouTube real quick. Enrique, I'm talking to you, buddy. I think I may have found it. Yeah, I think I found you here. Okay. What time is it? 11:42. We got time for maybe 3 more. All right, so if you want to super chat, you can get to that fast pass. Here we go. Got any music on this one? Reading y'all's comments. I don't know if this is the one or not, Enrique, so you're going to have to let me know, man. Because I did not see it on my submissions. So I don't know like what cameras you're using, any of that kind of stuff. Looks like you got maybe an LED wall behind you there. Exposure is tough whenever somebody's wearing a white shirt like that, especially when they have darker skin tones, because then the shirt just ends up getting blown out a lot. So, and not every camera is capable of handling, you know, the shadow detail and highlight detail. So that may just be a limitation of your camera as well. It looks like whenever you're doing whatever music you're doing, you're just putting up these slides. But, you know, if you can overlay that to whoever's doing the music live, that's what I would do. And that can be done with NDI into OBS, or I think Siphon maybe can do that. So there's other ways of doing that. But without knowing your setup, it's hard for me to give you much detail. So sorry, man. Reach out to me on Instagram if I just looked at the wrong church. I don't know. Oh goodness. Ryan, what's up? Not much. What's up with you? You're on the live stream with me. Thanks for joining us. We're having a fun time here. Josiah says, if I submitted, can I get mine looked at? So Josiah, we've got 16 minutes left here before I peace out. And there's 26 people that have also submitted before you that are in the line in front of you. So a $10 super chat moves you to the front of the line. But other than that, you're not getting reviewed this time. So, but you can do a coaching call if you'd like. So we're just going to keep going down the line here and see who's next. Pull these up. I want to make sure I go in order. Okay, we did bridge ministry churches already. Word of Life Bible Ministry is next. It's Johnny. We're going to pull up their YouTube here, and they say they're running a post-fader mix to a stereo bus that goes to a matrix for extra processing. They're doing a lot of the same stuff we're doing: stereo enhancer, master compressor, and doesn't know a lot about the video side of things. So he wants to make his mix sound fuller. So let's see if we can help with that.
You are worthy, oh Lord. You are wonderful. You are worthy, oh Lord Jesus. I
could already tell, like, I'm getting some audio artifacting in your live stream. So it says it's 720p quality, and the first thing that I would check is, you know, if 720p is the highest you can go, then fine. But I would at least get your bit rate up on your encoder up to have a high enough audio quality where it doesn't have those little artifacting things in there. So you probably can do 1080p though, I bet, if I was guessing. So let's listen now.
Raise your voice. This guy got another one, no day. This guy got another one, no day. This guy got another one, no day.
Let's go. So I think the fullness that you're missing is the low end foundation that's going to really tie everything together. So, you know, your kick drum, bass guitar, things like that are really going to help you feel the fullness of the mix. 'Cause I am missing that.
One more time. This night, God, another one, no day.
Cameras look good to me. I like the cutting to who's actually singing the parts. It's like you actually know how the song's going, and that's so important that you've paid attention. As a video director, like if you don't know the music, you don't know the ebb and flow of the dynamics, who's singing what, like you're just going to be lost the whole time and behind.
You are the mighty God, the great I am. Hallelujah. You are a mighty God.
I don't know that you need your logo on there the whole time, especially two logos. And so far, another thing I'm missing is just any reference for the space that we're living in as a live stream viewer. For all we know, this could have been a pre-recorded thing with no one even in the room. This could be a studio thing. And it may be, I don't know. Let's see if there's any wide shots or anything to show, you know, the audience, or just those establishing shots of the room. So like for a viewer that comes across your church live stream, they have a reference for where we're living in during this worship service. Yeah, so I'm not seeing anything. That might be something that I would look into adding, is, you know, every now and then throwing in some shots where you've got people live in the room worshiping. Yeah, so there you go. Hopefully you found that helpful. All right. Got some good thoughts here in the chat as well. We got about 10 minutes left. Let's keep going. Let's keep going. Start at 11:21, he says. Did we do... All these churches sound the same. Family Worship Center Church, Austin. Did we already review yours? Oh, I think we did. No, we did. We did already review yours. So we're not going to review that one again. Bread of Life Church, Joel Thomas is next up. They are using a PreSonus Studio Live 64S, running a matrix of the main mix with slight boost of specific channels and effects, and then doing some other stuff to it. Some PTZ cameras. He wants tips for bass tone and electric tone, which we've already talked about some today. How do you improve drum sounds on an electronic drum kit? Well, we can talk about that for sure, because I used to live in the electronic drum realm, and there are some ways that you can make them sound better. So let's get going here.
I know you will complete the work begun in me by the power of your spirit.
So earlier we were talking about how loud is too loud. This is too loud. So we got some overdriving going on there. Just an overall too hot level. So it's going to make it a little tough for us to really judge what's happening here.
I have a destiny, and it's not an empty wish, for I knew I was born for such a time as this. Long before the ages,
I thought he said it was electronic drums, but it sounds like there's like room noise of drums to me. like I'm hearing it in the room, but I could be wrong. We haven't seen it yet. The PTZs are not going over there to show us. I'd love to see the drums so I could actually. We got pianist here.
My weakness, he gives me history. My God lifts up those who are weak, those who are weak, those who ask him. You deserve the greater glory. Overcome our
Little focus, out of focus issue there. Maybe just, it may just be the limitation of your camera's zoom. It looks like a digital zoom to me. Okay, we're going wider. No, come on, keep going wider. I wanted to see the whole stage. I don't know that I would animate all the lower thirds in like that. Did it only happen that once? Let's see if it does it again. Yeah, I wouldn't do that. I would just have them cut between lyrics. Tips for giving your electronic drums better sounds is that you can actually connect your brain via MIDI to a computer, or if you have something like the Alesis Strike Pro, I believe you can even load samples onto it. But using something like Steven Slate Trigger, using the MIDI mapping of your electronic drum kit, like a TD20 from Roland or something, we used to do that. We would just MIDI straight into our computer and then use the sounds all out of Steven Slate drums or Easy Drummer or Addictive Drums, any of those, and then using their sounds to actually be the brain sounds. That will help you a lot. It does take some work to get that all, you know, sensitivities and stuff all dialed in, but a lot of times they have those presets already built for you. So okay, 6 minutes. Should we do one more? I don't know. We'll see. Okay, let's do it. Let's do one more. I'll see if we can find one here. Cornerstone Church, Shelby. Thank you for submitting. They have an X32 front of house with Dante to a Behringer wing that's used for the live mix. Sony cameras, Blackmagic switcher. Would like to know why it doesn't sound as full online as it does in person. It's a common theme we're hearing. So let's pull it up and see. Cornerstone Church.
Church, you will stand to your feet and worship with us this morning.
I feel like the toms are too far pan.
Is a lamp unto my feet.
I would put the lower thirds underneath. That's just my opinion.
Your way is the only way for me.
I think the kick sounds good. The snare leaves something to be desired. What's going on here? Why? Okay, so I'm confused. You have your logo with all this space down here, but then you're putting your lyrics up here. Why not just put the lyrics down here? And why do you need this logo here anyways?
It's a narrow road, the mercy's wide, 'cause you're good on your promise.
Love this song.
I'll take you at your word. If you say it, I believe it.
Well, I don't hear the bass guitar.
I've seen how good it was. If you start it, you complete it. I'll take you at your word.
And I think that you need a little more verb on your vocals to kind of sweeten them up a little bit. Oh, I feel like I'm hearing trigger drums now when he hits the snare hard. Listen now. But earlier, doesn't sound like I'm hearing trigger drums. But then,
if you say it, I believe.
no, I like those like sky panty kind of lights you got going on there. Wait, are you iMagging? Is this on here too? Oh, guys. How big is your space? I wouldn't do that. You're right. That's probably why they're on there up high, so the singers don't block it. But in my opinion, I don't think you need iMag unless you have more than 500 people in the room. So maybe you do. And it's also tough with iMag when you're center screening iMag, because you don't really want to go to a wide shot because it makes it feel weird because it's not image magnification at that point. And then now you're having to cut for the room, but really it doesn't really work for online, which is when you need 2 MEs. So cameras and stuff all look exposed well, colored well to me. I would do less headroom on this shot right here. It's probably just she's maybe not as tall as he is, but and then it's making you have to do weird things with your lyrics. So that's some of my thoughts there. So hopefully you find that helpful. Yeah. All right. Well, fellas, thanks for joining us for the live stream today. We've got another great one in store already planned for next month. So whenever you see that pop onto my YouTube feed, go ahead and hit that remind me bell. If you're not subscribed to the channel and you watch these, I think you should just go ahead and subscribe, and maybe you'd get notified for different videos that are coming out. You know, Easter is a week from today, and I feel like anytime as a production person, a worship leader, when Christmas and Easter come along, it's just that extra added layer of stress that we a lot of times put on ourselves, or maybe leadership does. So just be in prayer this week that like God would give us his heart for people over production, and that he would use our production efforts to bring glory to himself. And so like the things people are going to remember is like when that thing breaks on Sunday morning of Easter, how you react to the situation. Do you remain cool, calm, and collected? Do you treat people with kindness, or do you freak out? So I just want to encourage you to be prepared to worship him in your preparation as we try our best to do great things for his glory. So thanks for joining me for the live stream. If you enjoyed it, hit that like button, and we'll see you guys in the next one. Later.